Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's time for the Legal Lounge here on CRN Digital Talk Radio. Richard Nixon Live, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world, crntalk.com. Also available on Facebook, facebook.com/CRN Talk. We are streaming live there via video and taking your questions as well in the comment section. We'd love to also hear from you. Give us a call, 818-818-6401. That's 818-818-6401. A big, big day in the news. First off, Richard, sir, how you doing today?
Absolutely elated. It looks like the president may have read my book, actually.
Not only did the president, I think, read your book, but I think that, a lot of conservative pundits and people around the world, legal scholars as well, have read your book. An amazing development today regarding the law and regarding a lot of concepts we've discussed on this show in previous sessions. Just to give us some background, President Trump today has vowed to challenge the Constitution's grant of citizenship for any child born in the United States. That's colloquially known as birthright citizenship. And he's planned to do so from executive order. And so today, during this session, we're going to talk about whether or not that is constitutional, whether or not that is practical, and other ways that perhaps this can be addressed, maybe in the legislature, maybe be a constitutional amendment. But Richard, when you first heard the news today, other than thinking that they read your book, which I'm sure they did, America, An Illusion of Freedom, because it's fantastic, available on Amazon, iTunes, as well as Barnes & Noble, that's America, An Illusion of Freedom. What were your first thoughts?
Well, Mike, let me make just a small correction here now. I've heard the media, and I think you said it as well, that whether Trump can somehow modify this constitutional right to citizenship if you're born here, that's not a proper statement of the law.
Okay.
What the law says, basically, is that, and I'm reading the 14th Amendment, Section 1 now, that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So, President Trump is not trying to limit citizenship that's already given to people in the Constitution. He's trying to apply the Constitution as written.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, this all comes from the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment. And if you listen to past sessions of this program, we've talked about the 14th Amendment quite a lot, because it's extremely important regarding the due process clause and also regarding this citizenship clause. And we're going to get into that right after the break. But yeah, it's an amazing development today. We've talked about executive action before. President Obama tried to do it regarding the Dreamers. Now President Trump is attempting to do this with birthright citizenship, but it's going to fantastic issue to talk about today, especially with Richard. He's a constitutional scholar. He's a practicing attorney. He is a scientist as well, amateur Conga player. And if you guys want, to really, if you really want to know what happened today, you have to check out Richard's book. It's an amazing book. It reads like a novel. America, An Illusion of Freedom. It's available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, as well as iTunes. Also, if you're watching the video right now on YouTube or on Facebook Live, you can see his website linked above. It's www.pres37th.wix. That's .wix.com/America. And shoot us an email, you guys. Richard Nixon at crntalk.com. Richard Nixon at crntalk.com. We'll be right back in 1 minute to talk about all of today's amazing developments and consequences therefore in. So stick around, you guys. Richard Nixon Live in the Legal Lounge here on CRN Digital Talk Radio.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
And we are back here in the Legal Lounge. Richard Nixon live. This is CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com, streaming coast to coast and around the world on crntalk.com. Also available on Facebook, facebook.com/CRNTalk. Just check out the videos right there. We are streaming live, and I'm monitoring the chat room as well if you have any questions, concerns, or comments about today's show. Like I said before we went to the break, a big day today. Right when I woke up and I saw the news, I'm like, my goodness, this is right from Richard's book. Unbelievable. And like we said before opening things up, Trump vows to challenge the Constitution's grant of citizenship for any child born in the United States. And that's the headline from the Los Angeles Times. And so, Richard, let's talk about this. I mean, the birthright citizenship, and correct me if I'm wrong, please do. The Constitution's 14th Amendment, adopted in 1868, states, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and a state wherein they reside. And so let's break it down. What are Trump's options in order to end birthright citizenship?
Well, it's my opinion, and it's shared by many others, that he has several options. Number one, since the president, according to the Constitution, is charged with executing faithfully the laws of the land, since the Constitution is the preeminent law of the land, certainly the president can enforce the 14th Amendment as you've read it. There is a second way to do it. That would be through executive order. There's a second way to do it, and that is the 14th Amendment, Section 5, which basically says that Congress can pass a law to essentially authorize or enforce the particular Section 1 citizenship clause. And the third way, of course, is a full-blown constitutional amendment, which is much more tedious. And, of course, it would require that Congress comply or agree with the president. The most expedient way, of course, to do it is through executive order. And unless there's some authority written by Congress that basically prohibits the president from enforcing the 14th Amendment as originally intended in 1868, I see no impediment to his doing so.
We talked about this on the show before about the 14th Amendment that's a little bit unique because of Section 5. Can you tell us about Section 5 of the 14th Amendment and how it's relevant to what we're talking about today?
Yes, Section 5, again, it basically says that, as you used the term, Mike, prescient, that the people who wrote, the drafters of the 14th Amendment were prescient enough to realize that we may want to flesh in the 14th Amendment, Section 1, that is the Citizenship Clause and other parts of the 14th Amendment. So Section 5 basically says Congress can, they use the word enforce, but they basically mean Congress can write legislation that fleshes in what the 14th Amendment, Section 1 says.
And that's what President Donald Trump said today, actually. When all this came from an interview he did with Axios last night, and Axios asked him about these particular questions, and he said for sure that what he would prefer to do is through congressional action. And I believe within the hour, just breaking news, that Lindsey Graham, a senator of South Carolina, says that he's going to introduce legislation to the same effect to challenge birthright citizenship. But let's go through these individually about executive order. There's a lot of people in the media and saying, and on Twitter and social media and in the news media, saying that executive order is not going to fly constitutionally. For example, let's see here. I have some copy from a legal professor saying that that's right here. Excuse me, I beg your pardon. That the Reconstruction Congress passed the first Civil Rights Act and said all persons born in the United States are not subject to any foreign power. And what's interesting about this is there's a case that we will need to discuss regarding this issue about under the another national power, and it's an interesting case that maybe you can allude us on there, Richard. I believe it is Elk versus Wilkins. What are the implications of that case on this particular issue?
Well, actually, before we get into that, the Elk versus Wilkins case, which I think was 1884, we should mention the fact that since I am a strict constructionist or a textualist, I have to cite this from my book, Chapter 7, page 159. During the original debate over the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment, Senator Jacob M. Howard of Michigan, the author of the Citizenship Clause, described the clause as excluding American Indians who maintained their tribal ties and persons born in the United States who are of foreigners, aliens, and who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers. So we know exactly what the and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. We know exactly what that clause meant when it was written. And as a textualist, I believe that we have to use that, and that's what the President is going by. Now, the Elk versus Wilkins case was a case of an American Indian who did live in his reservation within the state of Arizona, I believe. He was born on the reservation, therefore he was born in the United States. And he thought that because he was born within the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that he was, or he could be, that he was a citizen, having been born here, and therefore he could vote under the 15th Amendment. And the court said, no, I'm sorry, but what and subject to the jurisdiction thereof means is that since your parents owe allegiance to your tribe as opposed to the United States itself, you are disqualified. Your being born here does not grant you citizenship.
Okay, just to get this straight, coming from a strict constructionalist viewpoint, because the language says, it's right here in black and white, all persons born in the United States and not subject to any foreign power. And in this particular case, Elk versus Wilkins, it was involved in a Native American, and due to federal U.S. law, that if you reside on a federal Indian land, Native American land, that you are a sovereign citizen of that land, of that particular Native American nation, not the United States. Is that correct?
Exactly. And again, the rationale for that is this, that if the United States is going to grant citizenship, there's two ways to do it. One, you can be born here, and two, you can go through a naturalization process. In either event, the purpose of granting citizenship is to welcome people into this country who share our ideals and our values. Excuse me. So if a person is naturalized, he or she will have to disavow their allegiance to their country of birth and adopt our values, that is, America's values. And the same with the child being born here. If a child is born here of parents from another country, there's no hope that that child will be raised as an American as opposed to whatever country the parents came from. So that's why the 14th Amendment Citizenship Clause is written the way it is, using the term "and subject to the jurisdiction thereof." That basically meant that the parents must owe allegiance to this country before their child's being born here is a citizen.
And there's, the case that most people are citing, both on, in the news and on social media regarding this issue about birthright citizenship, is Wong, Kim, Ark versus U.S. What's Wong, Kim, Ark versus U.S. 1898, and it seems like a lot of people out there, Richard, are really interpreting this case in a way that I really don't see as factual. And we're going to talk about that case right after the break, because this is kind of fundamental to naturalized birthright citizenship in the courts for the past about 115 years. So stick around, you guys. We're going to talk about that case right after the break. Big day here today on Richard Nixon Live. This is the Legal Lounge, streaming live on crntalk.com. That's crntalk.com, broadcasting around the world and coast to coast. Stay with us.
When you really want Italian food, you have got to get to Columbo's. Columbo's Italian Steakhouse and Jazz Club, Colorado Boulevard, Eagle Rock. It's that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. What happened to summer? You turn around and it's gone. So what do? Solution. Either stop turning around or head on over to Columbo's and enjoy the most delicious steaks imaginable. Seafood that brings awe and wonderment to your happy little taste buds. Columbo family Italian recipes so special they're kept under lock and key at an undisclosed and secure location. Jazz every night and the world's greatest meatballs. Need I say more? Oh, but I will. Enjoy the summer and head on over to Columbo's Italian Steakhouse. Good Time Central. Columbo's, because it really is that little neighborhood place you wish was down the street from you. Columbo's. Mangia.
The smartest way for you to get the lowest prices on your plane tickets, domestic or international, is to call SmartFares first or last, but you've got to call us before you book your plane tickets. Fly anywhere in the world, fly anywhere in the U.S., and SmartFares can save you up to 75% on your plane tickets. We have the lowest airline ticket prices on over 500 airlines. And you've got a great 12-hour free cancellation window. Plus, with our live agent help, you can always get fast help and fast answers. So on your next trip, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, how about right now? Pick up your phone and call SmartFares, plus save up to 75% on your plane reservation. So call right now. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644. 800-915-2644.
Still got those annoying critters? I'm talking bees and fleas, spiders, ants, roaches, bed bugs, and those disgusting rodents. Have you made that call to Dewey Pest Control yet? What's holding you back? Get rid of them, and I mean right now. When the heat brings them out, it's time to call Dewey, because Dewey knocks them down and keeps them out. Dewey's an 89-year Heritage California family business with 32 offices statewide. Think you got those 24/7 wood-munching termites chewing up your house? Call Dewey right now for their free inspection. And all this month, get $89 off with a regular maintenance program. Call 800-209-0900. That's 800-209-0900. Just one call to Dewey does it all. 800-209-0900. Or get your free inspection online at DeweyRadio.com. That's Dewey, D-E-W-E-Y, DeweyRadio.com.
And we are back here in the Legal Lounge. Richard Nixon live here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com. I'm joined by Richard Nixon. He's a noted attorney, a constitutional scholar, a scientist, court aficionado, amateur conga player. And you guys, we always like to connect vets here on CRN Digital Talk Radio. He's Richard himself is a vet, and so thank you for your service, Richard. Really appreciate that. And if you guys knew Richard during his time of service at Fort Sill or Fort Ord, 63 to 65, or in country in Vietnam in 1968, shoot us an email at Richard Nixon Live, Richard Nixon at CRNTalk.com. That's Richard Nixon at CRNTalk.com, or give us a call here at the office, 818-818-6400, because we'd love to connect you guys, and we'd also like to provide you a free copy of Richard's fantastic book, America, An Illusion of Freedom. Let's get back to it. So, big news today. President Donald Trump says that he wants to end the practice of birthright citizenship here in this country. And a case that I'm seeing a lot on Twitter, I mean, a lot of people are citing as evidence that he cannot do this constitutionally, is this case out of San Francisco in 1898, Wong Kim Ark versus U.S. And Richard, can you tell us why a lot of people out there are really misconstruing this case into the issue at hand?
Well, actually, I don't know if they're misconstruing it, but I would call this case, if you will, an aberration. And it becomes clear because the majority opinion actually says, contrary to what we just said about the intent of the 14th Amendment clause, it says here that they ask the question whether a child born in the United States of parents of Chinese descent, who at the time of his birth are subjects of the Emperor of China, but have a permanent domicile and residence in the United States and are carrying out business here, they're not employed in any diplomatic capacity, whether or not that child being born here becomes a citizen. And we said, and the court said, for these reasons we answer in the affirmative. And what they've done is they've totally ignored the text of the Constitution that basically says subjects of another country cannot, where the parents are subjects of another country, the child cannot become a citizen based on birth. They seem to be persuaded by the fact that these Chinese people were apparently good, law-abiding people. They were here lawfully. Yeah. They were permanent residents. They were not citizens, but they were here lawfully. And they seem to be sympathetic toward their plight, so to speak.
Well, yeah, to eat the sandwich from the other end, that's I think is a key thing that people are missing out there, is that this particular case, Wong Kim Ark versus U.S., Mr. Wong's parents, they were actually in the country legally.
Yes.
And Mr. Trump, what he's saying is that he wants to eliminate birthright citizenship for people who come to this country illegally and have children there. And so that's a pretty different precedent, though.
Absolutely. And just as a closing note, the dissent said that notwithstanding they were, of course, outraged at this decision, but they said notwithstanding the fact that the United States did not adopt the feudal system of England, we did not adopt England's policy of forbidding expatriation, and that the Treaty of 1866, I should say, forbade citizens of China from ever becoming citizens of the United States and vice versa, and that the Slaughterhouse case of 1872 had defined citizenship based on birth as not including children born of parents of foreign countries. Somehow the majority of the Supreme Court in the Wong Kim Ark case knew better. However, we'll see, if you continue in my book, you'll see the subsequent cases, one in 1914 and so on. Basically, the Supreme Court gave carte blanche to the Congress to define the citizenship clause any way they chose.
And there's a separation of powers issue here as well, because, like you said, there was a treaty, the Angle Treaty, between ratified by the Senate, between the United States and the nation of China at that time. And actually, China had a law on the books saying that any Chinese national who renounced their citizenship, which was required for citizenship in the United States to be naturalized, would suffer the penalty of death.
Absolutely.
And so what we have here is we have the Supreme Court overriding pretty much de facto the will of the President of the United States and the Senate of the United States who ratified this particular treaty. So once again, we have an interesting constitutional question there on who wields power in this country. Is it the Supreme Court, or is it the People's Branch Legislative, or is it the Executive? So
very well said, Mike.
I appreciate that. We're Richard Nixon. We're Richard Nixon live here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com, streaming coast to coast and around the world. And I want to talk about, after the break, we're going to talk more about this. I want to talk about Lindsey Graham, introducing legislation to limit birthright citizenship, and we're going to talk about the constitutionality of executive order and also the feasibility of a constitutional amendment. But particularly, I want to talk more about the 14th Amendment in Section 5, because I believe that's where the solution lies. So stick around, you guys, here in the Legal Lounge with Richard Nixon. Be right back. CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com.
Come to Angelo's and Vinci's Restaurante to see memorabilia of movie stars and theatrical magic right in downtown Fullerton, California. The Art of the Great Masters in an Italian town square complete with storefronts of old, Italian butchers and cheesemongers, fruit and wine vendors, seamstresses showing their wares, the romance of Romeo and Juliet. Find our mystical Room of the Moon, and don't forget King Kong, Dracula, Frankenstein, and who knows what awaits you in the wine cellar. Enjoy the great food. We hand stuff our pastas, roll each and every tortellini, bake our own bread, and make all of our sauces fresh from our private stock of Sicilian family recipes. Pasta to seafood, chicken to award-winning pizzas, tiramisu flown in from Rome. If you can't find something on our menu to tempt you, you don't like Italian food. Try our Sunday brunch, all you can eat, just $21.95. And Angelo's and Vinci's has been named the best Italian restaurant in Orange County 2 years in a row, and our owner has been named Restaurateur of the Year. Angelo's and Vinci's, Fullerton, California, 714-879-4022 or angelosandvinci's.com.
You check things all the time, like your email every 10 seconds, or your ex's Instagram. But what about checking something as important as your credit? Well, Discover makes it quick, easy, and best of all, free. Discover is now offering FICO credit scores to everyone for free, even if you're not a customer. And checking your score won't hurt your credit. We call it the Discover Credit Scorecard. And once you know your score, you should check to see if your current credit card is the best fit for you. Check your credit, compare your card. Go to discover.com/credit scorecard. Limitations apply.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call Call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
Enjoy Tiki Live, the best cable alternative choice today, with hundreds of premium live TV programming, including ESPN, CNN, Fox News, Disney, AMC, Bravo, XF, OWN, and CRN Talk. Plus no contracts and low month-to-month service. Tiki Live, servicing North America, including the Caribbean. To get started, visit TikiLive.com to order hundreds of channels, including CRN Talk, at a fraction of what you're paying today. Visit TikiLive.com. That's TikiLive.com.
Do you owe back taxes to the IRS? News flash, the president has changed the tax laws, and now you may be able to pay the IRS less. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, the tax doctor can help you pay the IRS as little as possible allowed by law. There are new tax laws for business owners, the self-employed, even W-2 workers. If you have a back tax problem or a few years of unfilled returns, new help to save you money is now here. Call right now to see how the new tax laws can help you. Plus, right now, we'll waive the consultation fee and give you a free tax savings report. Attention business owners, the self-employed, and W-2 workers. Make this free call to the tax doctor now and learn how to take advantage of the new tax laws that may help you pay the IRS less.
800-985-1610. 800-985-1610. 800-985-1610. That's 800-985-1610.
And we are back in the Legal Lounge. Richard Nixon live, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world on CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com, facebook.com/CRNTalk. Shoot us an email, you guys, richardnixon@crntalk.com. That's richardnixon@crntalk.com. Or give us a call, 818-818-6401. That's 818-818-6401. We really appreciate the feedback. And just wrap things up here with this big news today out of Washington, D.C., really dominating the news. Is, President Trump told during an Axios interview that he plans to submit an executive order to stop, quote, birthright citizenship. And Lindsey Graham, Republican senator out of South Carolina, has exactly. We've had some harsh words about Lindsey Graham, both on the air and off the air, but now things have changed, and that he is actually going to introduce legislation. And a lot of people are saying out there, and I hate using that term. A lot of people are saying, but a lot of people are saying out there that legislation through the Congress is probably the best way to go about this constitutionally. And is that correct, Richard?
Well, of course, it is another route. It would be more secure, so to speak, in that it probably couldn't be challenged by a federal judge, but it's going to require that the Republicans maintain control of the Senate and the House. And as we all know, coming next week, we're going to be voting again, and history tells us that the Democrats might take over the House.
Yeah, I mean, it's historically the party in power usually loses some seats. I was talking to our Jennifer Horn, who's our crack politics advisor over there. She's all over the place, 870 The Answer and elsewhere, and she was saying that most likely we'll see, in her view, we will see the Democrats take a slim margin in the House. But I'd like to ask you, Richard, though. Let's say there's two options here. Let's go with the first one. Let's say that legislation is passed in the United States Congress regarding some sort of stop, some sort of ban to birthright citizenship, immediate birthright citizenship. What do you think the Supreme Court is going to have to say about that?
Well, no, I believe the Supreme Court, even if we still had Kennedy in and Scalia, forgetting the two recent appointees, I think the Supreme Court would take the reasoned view, the view by Mr. Eastman and mine, quite frankly, and that is that we must go back to the original. When we actually know what the text actually meant at the time, there should be no confusion. It was understood what it meant, that is to say that if the child had parents that owed allegiance to another country, that child's being born here in and of itself did not constitute cause for granting citizenship to that child. that's pretty much an open and shut case, and it could only be interfered with by politics. But I think the Supreme Court would rise above politics in this case because it's too obvious what was intended, and they would find that President Trump has the authority to institute his executive order.
I think that point you just made right there, Richard, is codified in a couple constitutional standards, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, first of all, in the Constitution about who's eligible to be president, it always says a naturalized citizen. I mean, there's nothing worse than you don't want King Henry to come over here, in 1789 and get himself on the ballot. And also in this case that we just talked about before, Elk versus Wilkins, is the same thing about sovereignty.
Exactly.
And then after that, when we have this, Wong Kim Ark versus U.S., when that is being cited when he was really in this country legally, and so. I think that's your point right there is actually founded on well-established law, and I think that with the composition of the court as it is now, with Kavanaugh and whatnot, I think that the court would probably affirm if the legislation by the Congress regarding birthright citizenship, because I can't see anything, I mean, just in my cursory research that indicates otherwise, but things will definitely play out. It's going to be a fascinating couple of weeks, couple of months to see how this plays out, whether or not this is going to be enacted via executive order and the repercussions thereof whether or not the legislation will be submitted to the House and then into the Senate and see if that happens. And, last but not least, we haven't had one in a long time, maybe a constitutional amendment. So it's going to be a lot of interesting stuff moving forward. Anything else you want to talk about this topic, Richard, before we wrap up and move on?
Well, only one comment, and that is that in the case regarding in Elk versus Wilkins case, the 1884 case, I think that the majority opinion, which unfortunately said that he was not a citizen, therefore he could not vote, I think they put a final cap on it, which is very proper, and it says to be a citizen of the United States is a political privilege which no one not born to can assume without its consent in some form. So I think very politely they're saying that a person in and of himself cannot decide that he or she wants to become a citizen. It's necessary that the country consent to it.
It's incumbent on the state to grant citizenship, not for the individual to claim citizenship and therefore have all the privileges of that citizenship.
Very well said, Mike.
So we have about a minute or a minute and a half before the break, and I want to tease this. We're going to get to this now and also finish it up after the break. But we want to introduce a new segment here called the Case of the Week. And when Richard came in here today, he was hot under the collar. The dean of the Berkeley School of Law, a gentleman named Chemerinsky, he wrote an article regarding the death penalty in California, and he's got some hot takes about the death penalty. Please, Richard, fill us in.
Well, Erwin Chemerinsky, who is Dean and Jesse H. Chopra Distinguished Professor of Law at UC Berkeley School of Law. Erwin Chemerinsky is no stranger to the Daily Journal and to myself, frankly. He writes a lot of articles. He's appeared before the U.S. Supreme Court many, many times and is considered one of the finest brains, if you will, on the left. However, I find his argument in this case to be somewhat, shall we say, juvenile. What Professor Chemerinsky is saying is that Governor Brown can and should commute the death sentences of the 743 inmates now in California who have had the death penalty imposed upon them. He should commute all 743 of these people.
And the way that he gets there is very, very interesting. I mean, we've talked about capital punishment before on the show, but the way Mr. Chemerinsky gets to this point on how in his view, is cruel and unusual punishment is, I think, very, very interesting and maybe a little bit spurious. So we'll be right back. You guys stick around. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge here on CRN Digital Talk Radio. Thanks to all of our listeners and viewers on Facebook. Check us out at facebook.com/CRNTalk/videos. We'll be right back, you guys. Stick around. Back in 2 minutes with Richard Nixon back here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, CRNTalk.com.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Their expert staff can help you turn your book idea into a real book, a masterpiece that could someday make the bestseller list in hard copy and digitally all across the world. Page Publishing can help you completely take your idea for a book, write it, and publish it. So if you want to join the ranks of some of the most famous authors in the world, call now for a free information kit. Turn your book idea into publishing gold. Make a free call right now to Page Publishing.
800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. That's 800-378-3212.
We are back. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge here at CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com, facebook.com/CRNTalk. Make sure to check out Richard's website as well, www.pres37th.wix.com/America. And there you can order his fantastic book, America, An Illusion of Freedom. It's also available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and on iTunes. And if you guys enjoy what we're talking about today and in previous sessions, make sure to check out that book. It's a fantastic read. And so we're talking about our case of the week. This Mr. Chemerinsky is the dean of the Berkeley College of Law, and he wrote an article in the Daily Journal saying that urging Governor Brown of California to commute all over 700 of our state's capital offenders. And Richard, how did he get there? What's his argument there for commuting all these sentences?
Well, first of all, Mr. Chemerinsky, Professor Chemerinsky, is against the death penalty anyway, but what and he's urging Governor Brown to do this because Governor Brown is being termed out here as of November. But what he says, that is, Chemerinsky says that the evidence in California is overwhelming, that the death penalty is administered in a racially biased and arbitrary manner. Of the 743 individuals on California's death row, more than 66% are individuals of color. And he lists no more statistics. And I suggest that that is at best irresponsible, because we have no idea whether these people of color that he identifies, whether or not they committed crimes that qualified them for the death penalty in even a greater proportion. And it's a lot like arguing, for instance, what I did is I did a little research and I found out of the 743 people, 725 are men and 22 are women. Now, by his standard, I could argue that it's unfair to kill those men, if you will, because you'd be, let's face it, men are 50% of the population. You'd be killing men way, way more than you'd be executing women. And wouldn't that be a violation of some argument of equal protection or something similar? And I think that it's specious, because I think we know that men probably commit 90% of the violent crimes, and that's why there's more men on death row than there are women. And I think by the same token, to not give further statistics as to who actually commits the crimes that qualified an individual for the death penalty, just to say that 66% are individuals of color, is irresponsible.
Let me ask you a question here, Richard. In California, where this case is based out of, do the jury decide the penalty phase? Are the jury the ones that are deciding the death penalty, or is it the judge?
Well, that's a good question, and it's kind of outside my pay grade, Mike. It is a combination. There are instructions that are given to the jury in determining these things. And, of course, there's questions in voir dire whether or not certain people, would they have some compunction against the death penalty. So it's kind of a mix between the jury and the judge also.
So isn't this, if Governor Brown does end up commuting these sentences, as Mr. Chemerinsky would like to see happen, isn't that just a form of jury nullification? It
is, and you could almost argue a separation of powers, except that both the U.S. Constitution and the California Constitution do grant this power. In the feds, they grant this power to the president. Statewide, they grant it to the governor. So even though it might appear to be, if you will, overriding what the jury has done and basically ignoring the remaining victims of these horrific crimes, we have to assume they're horrific, or these people would not have been given the death penalty. And to just carte blanche treat them all the same defies logic in my mind.
And I wanted to, that's what I want to probe on, because I think that when you have this blanket statement, we've been down this road before. In California in 1973, there was a moratorium on death penalties. I mean, that includes some of the most heinous offenders in the American history. This includes the Manson family. This includes Sirhan, the assassin of Robert Kennedy. And now Manson, who recently passed away, was served 40 years, and he was convicted of 6 death sentences. It just seems to me that, like you said, Richard, when you use this blanket statement to commute all death sentences, that does a disservice, I think, to the statute itself and a disservice to the victims.
Absolutely. And, of course, he goes on, Professor Chemerinsky goes on, to, I think, contradict his own position, because he says since 1978, when the current death penalty system was adopted by California voters, over 900 people have been sentenced to death for their crimes, and of them, only 13 have been executed. So it seems to me that if he's looking, and he goes on to blame all the unnecessary delays. Well, it's the unnecessary delays that have prevented these more than 13 people from being executed. It seems to me that Mr. Chemerinsky should be satisfied with the fact that it is lengthy, and therefore, of the 900 people, only 13 were executed.
It seems to me that and now, I believe that under, Governor Brown has been in office for 8 years. I believe no executions during his administration. I believe there was a handful, I think 5 or 6 during the Schwarzenegger administration, and those were usually the most high-profile cases, the Stanley Tukey Williams case and the Polyclass murderer case. And so it seems like it's selectively adjudicated now, and I think when you have an entire blanket class of people you want to have commuted sentences, like I said, I think it does a disservice to the statute itself and to the victims. But you guys, we're going to come back right after the break, and we want to hear from you. Give us a call, 818-818-6401, or shoot us an email, richardnixon@crntalk.com. That's richardnixon@crntalk.com, or hit us up on Facebook, you guys, facebook.com/crntalk. We'll be right back right after the break here. Richard Nixon Live, CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com, broadcasting coast to coast and around the world.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
For the getaway of your dreams, come to Hawaii's Playground, Ka'anapali Beach Resort, on the fun side of Maui, where the world comes to play. Find your spot on Ka'anapali Beach with 3 miles of white sand, 12 resort properties, 2 golf courses, and 2 shopping centers. Enjoy the playground of Hawaii's ancient royalty. Ka'anapali Beach Resort is Hawaii's original master plan destination resort and home of the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. With views of 2 neighboring islands, you can breathe in the land's natural beauty from your favorite resort or golf fairway. Come experience Ka'anapali's own special brand of Hawaiian hospitality with world-class dining, relaxing resorts, water sports, and activities of every kind. For romantic, family, and great friend getaways, discover the options of Ka'anapali Beach Resort, where the world comes to play. Plan your getaway today. Visit Ka'anapaliResort.com. That's KAANAPALI Resort.com.
The following ad contains shocking material. Listener discretion is advised. Is someone in your family playing a dangerous game of Russian roulette? Over 43,000 people die a year from drug overdose. 120 people a day. 5 people every hour. 1 person every 12 minutes. 88,000 people die every year from alcohol abuse. Over 240 people a day. 10 an hour. 1 person every 6 minutes. Somebody you know may be next. Learn how to help someone you love get away from the drugs, alcohol, and bad influences. With the FMLA, people can take a leave of absence from their job and still keep it. Call Quit Drugs 321 now at 800-378-3315, 800-378-3315, 800-378-3315. That's 800-378-3315.
And we are back. Richard Nixon in the Legal Lounge. It's Richard Nixon live here on CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're wrapping things up. A reminder, we are here every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Also available anytime you want on Facebook as well. And on YouTube, you guys, just search Richard Nixon Live on YouTube or go to a CRN Digital Talks YouTube channel and watch us there as well. And Richard, I know you have some closing remarks you want to say to your pal, Mr. Chemerinsky.
He is my pal. It's just that I disagree with his philosophy, I guess. But this article that we're quoting from is from the Los Angeles Daily Journal, Tuesday, October 23rd, 2018, on page 9. He does close his arguments by saying that Governor Brown has served 16 years over 4 terms as governor of California. As his time in public office comes to a close, he has the chance to stand up for basic fairness and justice by commuting the death sentences of all on death row. If he fails to do so, the California Supreme Court should follow the example of other states and declare the death penalty to violate the California Constitution. And of course, I disagree with that.
Interesting. We're going to make sure to look to that because, like you said, Governor Jerry Brown is termed out, and it's interesting to see what he's going to do on his last day.
Yeah.
Because he has been kind of known to be a little bit of a pistol when it comes to this kind of stuff. And now let's get to the mailbag real fast. We have this question here. This is from, let me see if I have it right. Oh, this is from David. David, and make sure to keep those emails coming, you guys. Richard Nixon at crntalk.com. It says, Richard, where did you come up with the title of your book? What is that reference?
Oh, thank you. The title of my book, by the way, is America: An Illusion of Freedom. And the cover of my book, for those of you who haven't seen it yet, is we have the 9 justices there, which included Scalia. I'm keeping, since I have warm feelings, or had warm feelings toward Mr. Scalia and his philosophy, I chose to use that photograph. But what the photograph does is it shows the 9 justices there, and behind them the flag is actually burning. And in front of them At their feet is a very deteriorated, disheveled copy of the Constitution, and the implication is, of course, that the justices don't respect the flag. They dishonor it by rewriting it and ignoring its context. And one of the decisions was that the Supreme Court said it was okay to burn the flag, and that's what I emblemized by allowing the flag to be on fire. What I mean by that is this, that the U.S. Constitution is the ultimate law of our country. It was intended to be so. And if something is in the Constitution, I expect to obey it. I expect the government to obey it. And the government doesn't obey it. The government rewrites it. And to the extent that the government, namely the Supreme Court, finds something in the Constitution that's not there, they're forcing us by their decisions to obey something that is not part of the, if you will, commandments of the Constitution. I resent the fact that that issue that the Supreme Court just took from us, which was supposed to be decided by us because it was not in the Constitution, I submit that that is taking freedoms from us, and therefore we are not as free as we think we are. And that's why, to a certain extent, America is an illusion of freedom.
Oh, wow. Important words from an important man on an important topic, you guys. So make sure to check out that book, America, An Illusion of Freedom, available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, and as well as iTunes. Check out Richard's website as well, www.pres37th.wix.com/America. We'll be back next week talking more about all the legal issues of the week and of the day, you guys. So thank you so much for being here. Big day, Richard. It's going to be a...
Absolutely. And Mike, I must confess, I gave myself chills on that last dissertation.
That was well done. I got to cut that out. That's a great promo right there, you guys. So, see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining us here on CRN Digital Talk Radio and also on Facebook as well. We'll be back next week. Richard Nixon live in the Legal Lounge, CRN Digital Talk Radio, crntalk.com. Until next week.
CRN Digital Talk Radio prides itself on being the station of every situation. And you can listen to us on nearly any